Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C, and we bring you real talk sports Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we do it worldwide on the Charlton and Big C show. And also, Big C, I just want to say today is, I believe it was April the 12th, 2016, and it's so great because we're coming up on tax day. I know, I'm sure a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I want to...
I really didn't want to hear that, Charlton. I'm a little nervous right now.
Okay. Well, speaking of being nervous, I know Kobe Bryant's coming down to the wire with his final game on Wednesday. The Warriors going for 73. But you know how we mix Hollywood and entertainment? We also know that Mark Wahlberg, one of the great actors out there, as we know that you want to honor him. And I also want to thank our Latin American audience. So bienvenidos to our growing audience in Latin America. But Mr. Wahlberg, Big C, you're very proud of the work that he's done. You love his acting work. What are your thoughts on him, Big C?
Well, you know, this young man goes way back, Charlton. If you remember, he started out with a group called Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah.
Well, he was a rap singer early on, you know, in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
But he's transcended into Hollywood, and he's made a gamut of films, Charlton. And some have gotten wide acclaim from him. He's played in a couple of sports movies.
Yeah.
Where the first one he played Invincible, where he played this wide receiver walk-on with the Philadelphia Eagles, who actually made the team when Dick Vermeil was coaching. And he played on special teams with the Eagles for 3 years, a true life story.
Well, I heard they've gotten rid of so many players, they might be having him come back for a tryout, Big C.
Well, if you look at the physical conditioning, he looked like he could actually play, Charles.
Oh, yeah.
he has a well-kept body. You know, I'm envious. When he's around, I'm not taking my shirt off.
And we know it's all natural, Big C. We know it's all natural. Your thoughts on him being natural?
Well, yeah, you know, he drinks a lot of protein shakes and things along that line, Charlton. You know, all those things that build mass muscles, you know.
Yes, we understand that.
Even in more recent years, Charlton, he was in a movie called The Fighter.
Yeah.
Where, you know, he was fighting, you know, for his brother who had gotten into some legal trouble. And so he felt he wanted to maintain the family legacy, so he got into the ring and developed himself as one of the fine young fighters of that era.
Yeah.
But Mark Wahlberg, you know, the one movie that I love the most of him, Charlton, and he's played in movies that are family movies like the Transformers series and all that, Boogie Nights, he's been in that, you know, which gave him a lot of acclaim. But the movie that I love is The Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
About a group of Rangers that were in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That were pinned down by the Taliban in the mountains, and what they had to go through and endure during their fight for survival. I mean, anyone who appreciates our servicemen and women in America who saw that movie have a great deal of respect for our servicemen and women, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you do movies like this, it pays a little bit of homage, but it never tells the true story of what these men and women in our armed forces in America and what their families have to endure, Charles.
Yeah, I remember that great line that Jack told in the movie he was there with the great actor, and he said, "I want the truth." He said, "You can't handle the truth." And that was with Tom Cruise. And I know our servicemen and women, they go through so much just to keep us free, and we always appreciate it and love. I love the way you pay homage to it. Just think about old school and new school, Big C. I always appreciate that. And also, I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by Bud Light, your great taste in beer. And Big C, I know big guys like you love drinking beer that's light filling because you have all that muscle that you carry around, Big C, right?
Well, Charlton, I always like to think of beer as cornflakes in a can. You know, it's very nutritious.
Yeah.
You know, it just has a little relaxing agent in there. That's all. But you know, you can get full and comfortable off a 6 or 12 pack, Charlton.
Well, I'm sure a lot of guys are trying to do that as we speak, Big C. And also, speaking of getting full, and I know you love Hollywood, the Hollywood angle that we bring to the Charlton and Big C show, but I just want to say that we are talking about one of the greatest times, because I love basketball and I love all sports. We just got finished with the Masters. We had the Exploitation Series, which is also called, I think it's called March Madness.
Well, all those basketball players are playing for free, and the coaches are making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I hear
making it to Houston, and the winning team, the players get a new sweatsuit, T-shirt,
a new sweatsuit, exactly.
A pair of sneakers.
Well, I hear.
Did we mention that some of those coaches wearing suits $2,000 to $3,000 a copy? No, let's not talk about that.
No. Well, I do hear that all of the checks have cleared, so there's a lot of pressure off the minds of a lot of those big college coaches from the heritage schools that you talk about, Big C. But I want to bring that up because I was listening to ESPN this morning and some other programs, as you know. College football is so big, especially in the South. You call it from the East Coast, and I know it's kind of like religion back there. But there was so much talk about Harbaugh out of Michigan taking his team down to Florida, and they want to do away with that. And we talk about Alabama, and they're talking about so many other schools. I know USC, the great program out here in the West Coast, they just this week had some of their opening day for what we call spring practice, etc. Whatever they do to kind of introduce the alumni. You know, the cheap alumni, the guys that don't give any money to the players and the coaches.
You mean those guys who have all the premium seats and get to hang out with the players when they feel like it? I can understand that you would want to eliminate something like that.
You can understand that.
It doesn't benefit the program financially in any way, Charles.
No, not any way. But see, this is the thing. Because we mentioned about a lot of the what they call black colleges, historical black colleges, schools like in the SWAC, back in the Southeast, how they don't get the chance to participate in the major Heritage Bowl games because there's nearly $1 billion in payout. And, of course, you can't have that money go into hands of color unless the color is green, from what I understand.
Well, now, Charlton, how embarrassing would it be, Charlton? They're going to expand this College Bowl series to it's going to be 8 teams within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But how embarrassing would it be to the establishment? You bring in a traditional black college and allow them to compete against one of these schools and may play them head-to-head, may even win. Now, all of a sudden, that destroys what they've talked about as dominant universities, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's why they're very selective about the schools that they let in. Now, if you look pre-1970s, these black players did not play at these traditional white universities.
Yeah.
They could not get in. But, you know, they found a way to exploit them in and say, hey, we're going to offer opportunity.
Did you say exploit or export? I just want to make sure I understood you.
you mean the exploitation? You think that happens in the NCAA?
No, it's all straight-laced.
Okay. No, it's all good. It's not exploitation, Charlton. It's free labor.
Well, see, go ahead, Big C.
You come play for our university. We're going to give you a chance to be on television, okay?
Yes.
Wow. They may even mention your name.
Well, you know what?
And for that, you know, we're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, even $1 million on Saturday.
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands, that's like in a week. You talk about millions of dollars by the time each game goes by. But I think a serious note, too, it's almost funny in a sense because I hear these coaches saying we need to be able to go into different states, like Harbaugh needs to go down to Florida, or different programs need to go across the country so they can have their programs being more exposed to kids from different cultures, correct? Mostly inner city kids. And
well, you know, you think about it, Charlton, when you mention these inner city kids.
Yeah.
At what point do they realistically care about these inner city kids? Are they going to go in the inner city and talk to kids that are not premium athletes, Charlton?
No.
The only thing they're doing is cherry picking. Let's go on here and load up our shopping cart. Let's get the premium athletes out of this neighborhood.
Yeah.
We can care less about them, you know, but we want the athletes. We don't want anything else. Because when you look at these universities who recruit on the road, Charlton,
yeah,
you're going to tell me that there's not kids in their own backyard that they can recruit.
Exactly.
But they go cherry pick the premium kids and bring them down and exploit them for 3 to 4 years and then say, hey, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, and see, you brought up something that I really took for granted because, again, now, I know you don't like me saying this, but I am a little bit younger, Big C, and so you are old school, but I say that with respect.
Man, you know, this young thing, that's played out. Let me put it
it's out of respect, Big C.
Charlton, you don't get old by being no fool, okay?
Okay.
Continue, young man.
Well, some guys might differ, but I just think this is funny because we just talked about the nearly $1 billion being made through March Madness, and I was watching a program that I had it just caught my mind because they were talking about pay inequality and how all of the money flows into the white side of the color line because we talk about a colorblind society. It's not a colorblind society, but I see this new thing where you take your athletes to a different state because a lot of poor kids who are hungry for sports, they don't have the money to fly to the great University of Michigan or Ohio State or even USC for that matter, or Oregon or Texas or even the great Florida State. But they're starting to take their programs to different states so they can expose their brand to the poorer communities to get those kids to be able to see what they could never afford to do on a recruiting trip, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Look at this. You know, the monies that are invested to take an entire football team of 100 players to another state to practice, as well as hotel accommodations, food, and everything else that these players are going to require when they're on the road. Why could you not just invest that into the community? Because it's going to take a few hundred.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean food? Isn't Gatorade enough? Why do they need food? They give them Gatorade, Big C.
Well, that's why all these young African Americans have high blood pressure, Charlton, drinking all this Gatorade. And too much sodium.
Too much sodium
for a young person. And so you're creating health problems by marketing Gatorade. Gatorade was meant for high-performance athletes, not to drink when you're walking up and down the street. And they've sold that bill of goods to the inner city more than any place else, Charlton. That's why you see these star basketball players and football players on television marketing Gatorade. Gatorade has too much sodium and potassium for normal, everyday consumption, Charlton.
Yeah, and I agree with that too, Big C. And see, this is a serious subject because my son is a good-sized kid at 13, and he's running track. He's been in martial arts. He's been in basketball. So I'm speaking from experience. And the way I say this, because about 35 years ago, the same thing happened to me. And these coaches are saying, man, you're a big kid. You should play football. And I mean, he's an honor roll kid. Now, it's not just about my son, but I, like a lot of other fathers, they won't speak up for their own kids, but I will for mine, because a lot of these coaches, they get in good with the fathers, like they want to get me to volunteer to coach the high school football team, right? And I say, for what? I want to help my son get an academic scholarship. If he plays sports, that's great too. And the interest wanes. And the reason I bring that up, Big C, is it costs a lot of money to put a college football team on an airplane in the offseason and fly them down to Florida. And I know Harbaugh's a great coach, did a great job at San Diego State, did a great job at Stanford. We know he did a great job at the 49ers before he was run out of there. But he is forward-thinking. But I do think that he could also find some ground along the Michigan campus to practice, but it's an exploitation game, and more people are starting to follow suit, and they're defending the criticism that's coming to these coaches, Big C.
Well, you know, what happened was you get other universities thinking that Harbaugh is into their recruiting hotbed.
Yeah.
And if he takes their entire team down there and showcases, instead of just a coach going down to talk to a couple individual players, and you get these local players getting a chance to interact with the players and find out what life is like on campus, they feel that he's getting an advantage. Now, these players are not flying commercial, Charlton, so they have to charter an entire plane. Okay? You're not walking up saying, hey, give me 100 tickets on your next flight to Fort Lauderdale.
Exactly. That's not happening. Right.
So they're chartering an entire plane, because think about it, Charlton, all the equipment that they have to carry along with them. So there's a lot of need and a lot of financial wherewithal that's involved with getting an entire football down to another state halfway across the country. But, you know, when we look at these traditional black schools, why can't you take some of these funds from the NCAA's perspective and funnel them back into these traditional black universities, Charlton, that the NCAA allowed through desegregation the major white universities to go in and rape and pillage the best athletes from these schools, Charlton, because in the 50s and 60s, they could not go to these traditional white colleges. They could only play in the SWAC.
Well, see,
and now the SWAC has been pillaged of the best athletes, Charlton. Now that these traditional universities saying, hey, you can play on television, and yet the NCAA won't broadcast it in the SWAC games, Charlton.
Well, you know, that's so powerful that you say that. And this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade. You can only get it there new. And when you go test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, this is kind of interesting because I'm a nut for sports. I love it. It's great to be able to talk about sports, make a living. I'm also an insurance broker that does real estate. But the great Kirk Herbstreit, he's part of this ESPN push to have high school games on ESPN now, and they do it all over the country. There's a great program out here called De La Salle in the Bay Area, one of the top high school programs in the country. But what I see with that is now, if you could even go back to the days that you were being recruited, they don't have to pay. I think you get only 5 visits for a scholarship kid.
I think it's 6, Charlton. They got 6 university visits for scholarships per year. So basically, you can go 12 over a 2-year span.
Yeah. Okay. So it's so ironic that because the way you get around that, Michigan beat Florida in a bowl game to end the season. Where's the hotbed of football talent in the United States? It's Florida, California, Ohio, Georgia, Texas. Those regions, right? So you get on a plane, you go down there. It's an extra time to recruit. More people are going to follow suit. I just think they're not down there to recruit for academics. And I saw a father on television, and they were having the kids say at the Under Armour football game, what college are you going to go to? And the kid chose Arkansas. And so they said, what made you choose Arkansas? And he said, well, because they have a good team. There was nothing about the academics. There was no push about what type of graduation rate they have at that university or any other university. And his father just sit there and smile like, yeah, he's going because they have a good football team, as opposed to I'm going to go get a great education, Big C.
He's not concerned about his mental growth, Charlton. He's concerned about his physical growth.
Yeah.
And it's like you talked about Herb Street backing high school games, okay?
Yeah.
And this is when we talk about the exploitation of the traditional black colleges, Charlton. You know, you're going to put these high school football games on Thursday and Friday night on ESPN. Why does ESPN not want to put a traditional black university on Thursday or Friday night, Charlton? What's the throwback against that? What's the resistance level? Why is ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, so anti-black universities, Charlton? That's what I don't get. They would rather show high school kids that majority of them will never put on a jockstrap in college.
Yeah.
But you have these traditional black universities, Charlton, that are loaded with great athletes, great talents, great academics, and ESPN does not respect that enough to put it on college. But you will put a Division II or III school on that no one knows about, someplace Monmouth up in New Hampshire or something along those lines, versus the traditional black college, Charlton.
Well, see, at about 70% of these kids at these games, and I'm not saying their games are bad. I used to do some work with the Reebok Nike Football Combine, Nike and Reebok in California back in the day, and that's kind of how I got my start going to these Elite 11 quarterback camps back in the the mid-90s. But because most of these kids are kids of color, but when you look at the coaching, hardly any of them get the chance to coach, and a lot do not even get a degree. I just think it's exploitation at a higher level, because instead of giving you one of those 6 recruiting trips, now they fly the airplane full of a team down to where you are, the local hotbed of local talent, mostly African American, and it's a bigger way and a faster way to exploit kids. So I just hope more parents have a consciousness. I know a lot of people on television, they're afraid to speak up about things like that, and that's why they can listen to it on Charlton and Big C. So Big C, your thoughts again on what a parent should look for when a coach comes into town. I hope the parents start saying, tell me your graduation rate for the players that have been under your tutelage before I let my kid go to your school. Is that something that would be ever mandatory? Does that make any sense, Big C?
Well, Charlton, that should be the first thing that a coach walks into a parent's home with is, look, our graduation rate, our ratio is this.
Yes.
That should be the number one. Number 2, Charlton, it should be that the number of players who have not gotten in trouble, the percentage of that, Charlton,
well, so
who have not had any off-the-field scenarios that have occurred that may have caused them run-ins with the law.
Are you trying to put John Calipari out of a job? Big C, you're making John Calipari sweat. He just cashed that $1 million paycheck. You're saying they got to graduate too to get a paycheck? Are you kidding me?
You know, but those are the things that, I mean, it's bad for coaches to do it. It's even detractive that parents don't inquire about it. What are the chances of my son or my daughter getting an academic graduation at your school? Achieving their academic goals. Not their sports goals, but their academic goals. You know they're being recruited to be athletes, to make the university money. But what plans do you have for my child 5 to 6 years down the road? Those are the questions that these universities need to answer for these parents. It's so visual when you look at a basketball team because there's so few players. But when you have 100 football players out there, how many players fall by the wayside every year, Charlton? When you have a football team and you yank 5 or 6 scholarships, nobody will know that, Charlton, and it happens every year because you haven't lived up to what we expected. We're going to take your scholarship, and there's no recourse for the player. He's slave labor. So when we say we're not going to provide for you anymore, you got to hit the streets. Basically, basically you're homeless now.
Well, see, and I think that's so powerful because, again, most of them look like me. I heard someone saying that Jim Nantz couldn't comment on the race at the Masters. Well, if he can't, then who can? I mean, that's why we have the Charlton and Big C show, because we'll go where other people won't. But I know a lot of people.
Charlton,
yes, Big C.
When you talk about Jim Nantz said it was complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so it made it very difficult for him to address it. How complicated is racism, Charlton? It's black and white. I mean, there's nothing complicated. The complicated part about it is that he wanted to turn a blind eye. He said, hey, it's not my issue. I can get on the course at Augusta anytime I'm down in Georgia to play.
Yeah.
And my young son, who was just born previous to the Super Bowl, in 20 years, if I want to take him down there, he'll be able to get on the course.
Yeah,
but
I know.
If you look at that, other CBS announcers like James Brown,
yeah,
he can't get on the course.
Yeah.
Gus Johnson from Fox can't get on the course. Brian Gummel from CBS, he can't get on the course. Why? Because they're African American. But Jim Nantz says it's complicated. It's so complicated that he doesn't want to lose his stature and his playing ability, so he's not going to address it. It's not complicated. Jim Nantz, just say what it is.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Well, see, and I think that's the thing, too, because, again, I interact with black and white and Native American friends, Latin American friends, and again, bienvenidos to our Latin American audience and broadcasters who listen from South America. Also to our great English friends that just got some Twitter followers from the country of England. So thank you for that as well.
So we went across the pond.
Across the pond.
We followed the green jacket back to England.
Big C, I'm going to buy you a cup of tea after this program is over.
All right.
But I think also, just like we talked about when I was a young boy, I actually had the pleasure of meeting the great Howard Cosell. And what I liked about Howard Cosell and his conversation with the great Muhammad Ali is they had conversations that were future-based. It wasn't about being, well, let's talk about that later. You know, we don't want to make anybody upset. Let's keep everything calm. But when that African-American man can't take his child to a course in 2016 because we don't want to upset the good old boys, and in fact, let's not talk about it because I want to keep my job. What the heck do we have the Emancipation Proclamation for if you're still going to be slaves to your thoughts? It's freedom of speech. You don't have to always like what Charlton and Big C say, but we're just being truthful.
That's what the Emancipation Proclamation is. It was not about freeing slaves.
Yeah.
It was about creating northern economic equality with the South. He was trying to take financial means away from the South to help the North win the Civil War. Granted, it was a war that needed to be fought and slavery needed to be abolished, but Lincoln did not free the slaves through the Emancipation Proclamation. It was just he emancipated them for financial use.
Financial gain for the country, yes.
So, you know, when we talk about equality, that's never come about. It's just like when Kennedy was president.
Yeah.
And he had an opportunity to pass the Voting Rights Act. But he said the time is not right. You know, let them stay impoverished and without power. The time is not right. He even had Dr. Martin Luther King followed by the FBI all the time.
Yeah.
Had J. Edgar Hoover having this man under 24-hour surveillance, trying to entrap him in anything that they could, setting him up in any kind of way, threats on his life. Eventually his life ended, and it's still a mystery to how his life ended. But when we've had leaders in America with an opportunity to make it right, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they have said the time is not right. Why are you a leader in America if the time is not right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should surrender your post. Say, hey, the time is not right. I can't do what's right for America. I'm going to resign my position.
Well, see, I think that's so powerful. And again, we're here less than 100 years. Most people don't live to be more than 100 years. Now, if you think about it, what do you stand for? Because if we think what the great Dr. Martin Luther King went through, and even Mahatma Gandhi, they all stood for something that would exist even when they were gone. So I know when I look at my kids and they say, well, Dad, because I was watching the Masters too, and they're saying, well, Dad, how come you can't join the Masters? I say, well, they don't let people who look like me in there. And that for a 13-year-old boy, because they're in a world of inclusion. So whether it's Jim Nantz's child or anyone's child, any of the great Vern Lindquist, their kids, all of these people that go down there and play and say, wow, like no other course in the world, the tradition like no other. It really is a tradition like no other, but I still got to tell my son, they won't let you in because you're black, not because you're not intelligent. I know you're an honor roll kid, I know you're a good athlete, but you're still black, and they won't let you in there.
When they talk about the tradition, the tradition is segregation like no other.
Yeah.
That's what the tradition is. The tradition is just us are going to play here.
Yeah.
The tradition is we're going to keep you out. Tradition is this is a private club, and yes, there's a lot of private clubs throughout America.
Yeah.
But this is a racial divide club. The tradition like no other.
Yeah.
The masters, and that's what plays there. With those people originally, they were masters and slave owners.
Yeah. And thinking of masters, also this segment is sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. Go down and test drive the all-new 600 horsepower 760 Li, also known as the M7, and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, in the final parts of our program, I know we love basketball, and we talked about what the Warriors have done in tying the Bulls. Hopefully,
are they playing this year?
Well, yeah, they're playing this year. But we know the great.
Oh, my bad. I was thinking about the Lakers. I was thinking about Kobe Bryant.
Well,
okay, go ahead on, man. I made a mistake there.
That's a great setup. And speaking of the setup, Kobe's playing his final game, and it just happens to be at Staples Center in Los Angeles. A lot of players are going to be there. Yes.
Kobe played his final game 3 years ago, okay?
Well, I understand. Right. But we do.
Kobe's been operating as a thief for the past 2.5 years.
However,
he played his final game 3 years ago.
Well, okay, competitively. But however, there's a lot of guys getting together, even the great Shaquille O'Neal. We know they didn't like each other over the final few years down in Los Angeles, but there's a lot of people paying respect to Kobe. Now, I think it's very selfish what he's done. He could have been like Tim Duncan, and we could be celebrating the Lakers getting into the playoffs, kind of like the Houston Rockets and the Utah Jazz are trying to do. But that being aside, what does it mean when you look at Kobe and some of his great history down in Los Angeles with one team for his whole career? Does he remind you of any other great players, Big C, even though they may be going out a different way?
Well, you know, I look at the totality of Kobe's career, Charlton, which has been rare air.
Yeah.
You know, you think about 20 years in a league, 20 years with one team, very profound, Charlton. Kobe has a legacy second to none in the NBA. The 5 titles, you know, he has done it all as a player. Did he stay too long in the game?
Yeah.
Yes, but egos do that to people.
Yeah.
But as far as what he leaves behind, the people that he has thrilled over the last 17 years, the last 3 hasn't been really much.
Yeah.
But the people and the memories that he has created, Charlton, you know, it's memorable to be in sports at this time and era where you have such an opportunity to see so many great players.
Yeah.
You know, you think about the people who didn't get to see the great Bob Pettit when he was with the Minnesota Lakers. You know, early on, you know, people who didn't get a chance to see the great Bill Russell, who has so many championships he can't even count. You know, because the television was not running back then. The great Oscar Robertson, when he averaged a triple-double for an entire season.
Average, that's amazing.
You know, Wilt having a 100-point game, not on television, averaging 54 points a game for an entire season, Charlton. These are the things that so many young people like yourself never get a chance
Wait a minute. What do you mean young people? I thought you said you don't want me calling you old school. Did you just call me young?
Tell me something.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Were you born during the Pampers time or something like that? We use cloth diapers, all right?
Okay.
With stick pins, and if it came loose, it hurts.
I understand it hurts. But Los Angeles, what a great place to have sports. We know the Rams are coming back. Kobe Bryant, they're giving him his send-off. You know, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even as Lou Alcindor. You know, Shaquille O'Neal started his career in Orlando. They were foolish enough to let him get away. I think it's a great way to build the Lakers dynasty back because they're going to have a lot more room with the salary cap. And I'm hearing the tickets on average are about $1,000 for this final game, Golden State's season final against Memphis, and they're going to set the record. Hopefully, those tickets average price are only about $500, Big C. So a lot of Hollywood entertainment, they're paying to see Kobe, but I just think it's sad for the Lakers the way they are. They're no longer the dynasty, but they will be back. I just do want to say I appreciate Kobe Bryant because he's a competitor. You know, some athletes have to be selfish in order to win, and he's definitely epitomized that. 5 championships, but I do want to credit him for being so excellent for more than half his lifetime in one sport, Big C.
Well, the Mamba, you know, has left a legacy in Los Angeles when you think about the greats such as a Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, the Shaquille O'Neal. Kobe is right there in that upper echelon of those players, Charlton. He's one of the all-time greats to ever play with the Lakers. and in the NBA.
Yeah.
His legacy will never be forgotten. It's just, the last couple of years of his career are not what he wanted, and his pride would not let him walk away.
How would you contrast him in the final few minutes, Big C, the Charlton Big C show worldwide? And I want to just ask you, we know Steph Curry's probably going to be back-to-back MVPs of the league. He's about 392 three-point baskets this year. Now, the great thing about Curry, for every three-point basket that he hits, he gives a net to Make-A-Wish Foundation. And that's a great thing because they're trying to help fight malaria throughout the world. And they actually give nets that keep people safe. But I just look at him because he had his father, Dale Curry, there. And he gave him an example of how to be a pro. They're both great players. They're both in the great state of California. I just think that there's two contrasting personalities here. But they're both great, Big C. So you don't always have to be great as a communicator. Kobe's bilingual. But I think he's had a pullback from the media when he had that incident in Colorado because a lot of people, as you know, Big C, the media loves you when you're on top. They hate you when on the bottom. So he became silent and more introverted, and that's why he kind of had that standoffish attitude, Big C.
Well, Kobe even changed his image. Kobe even got a tattoo after the Colorado incident to become more street, Charlton.
Yeah.
Trying to change his image into toughness. But when you look at the Curry scenario, as far as his community involvement, being outspoken, being an advocate for the health of kids and people around the world. I mean, all athletes have that duty, Charlton. You have a voice, you have a platform. And when you go silent, then you allow these negative things to occur. If you can sell for a shoe company, if you can jockey for Gatorade or any other power bar company that's out there, why can't you be an advocate for society, Charlton, as an athlete?
Yeah.
Be that voice. Gain respect from your community activism, not about how many three-point shots you can hit, not how great a dunk you can make, and not how many highlights you're going to have on ESPN.
Yeah.
But take your power as a professional athlete. Help out those who are less fortunate. We talk about the kids who don't make it through college, who are gone, spun off after a year or two.
Well, let's not get on the University of Kentucky every time, Big C.
Utilize it.
Okay. We don't have to talk about the University of Kentucky every time we talk on the show, Big C, okay? But I just want to say that this last segment
you gotta look at it from this perspective, Charles.
Yeah.
Calipari.
Yes.
Italian.
Yeah.
If something happened to you, please don't give up my address.
I got Italian friends in high places, Big C. Also, speaking of high places, this last segment is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealers, home of the all-new F-150. They build it for it tough. Go down and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you down there. Big C, in the final minute of the program. Now, I know you followed Golden State, and you've talked about their first championship, now their second championship, going for the three-peat. Going to be a playoff-like atmosphere at Oracle Arena. Just your thoughts on what you can expect to see in the playoffs coming up, Big C.
Well, I think you're going to see the traditional run that you see in the playoffs. I mean, Cleveland has won 8 of their last 10 games in the Eastern Conference. But I think for the NBA, they need to see Cleveland in the championship game. I like Boston in the East, Charlton. Yeah. But in the West Coast, it's a crapshoot out there. I mean, you got the great San Antonio Spurs and the great Golden State Warriors. You got teams that are not slouches in Oklahoma City and L.A. Clippers.
Yeah.
The Portland Trail Blazers could rise up and knock somebody off.
Yeah.
But, I would love to see a repeat. The repeat would be solid for the NBA if the Warriors could set the record as well as repeat as champions. That's real history. That's what we all live for in life and in sports, is to witness history, because that's something you can always look back and it will always be a part of the fabric of your life, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I tell you, I appreciate it very much. And I also got to tell you that we're out of time again. Man, what happened to time?
Let me look at my clock.
I thought you had one of those hourglass timers. We got to get a better time because this goes by way too fast. But you can always listen to us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the Charlton and Big C Sports Show. We'll bring it to you again tomorrow. We thank you for listening and hope that you have a super fantastic day.